There's a new person in charge of overseeing security for the more than 8,000 schools in the state of Texas. His name is John P. Scott. In his first interview since being appointed by the governor after the school shooting at Uvalde, the state's chief of school safety and security sat down with I-Team reporter Brian New. Brian, thank you for joining us here. This is a position now that the state has really never had before.
Right, Ken, and it marks a shift in the state's role when it comes to school security. Along with setting the safety guidelines, the state is now going to make sure schools are in compliance of those guidelines. And the man in charge of this is Chief John Scott. Scott told me that Texas schools are going to be safer because of this. A message students, however, have heard before.
School safety, especially in Texas, is always an issue.
As a high school senior with college ambitions, Savani Makara is focused on her academics. But all throughout her schooling, she says the fear of a school shooting has lingered in the back of her mind.
And it manifests in a lot of different ways. Some people struggle with sleeping, some people struggle with staying on top of their school, like the obligations they have at school.
Makara was in first grade when the shooting happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School. She was in middle school when Parkland in Santa Fe took place and was a sophomore in high school when it happened again in Uvalde.
What I've noticed happening is just, a tragedy happens, thoughts and prayers, a little bit of media attention, and then we move on. We don't go back to that issue. We don't look at what went wrong, how do we fix it.
In the days after the shooting at Robb Elementary School, Governor Greg Abbott called on the state's education department to create a new position, someone in charge of overseeing school security efforts statewide, a chief of school safety. Last fall, Abbott chose this man, John P. Scott, for the job.
When it comes to security, there's never a finish line.
Prior to accepting the job, Scott had never worked in education, but he does know about security. Scott, a former U.S. Secret Service agent, worked security detail for Vice President Dick Cheney and then Vice President Joe Biden.
I spent my entire adult life protecting the most powerful people in the world. But now I'm able to take those skills and transition that, and I get to protect the most important people in the world, which are kids and our future.
One of Scott's first jobs as chief of school security is to ensure every district in the state has an active shooter plan. In a 2020 audit of more than 1,000 Texas school districts, the Texas School Safety Center found more than half of the districts did not have an active shooter plan, and more than 80% did not have a plan that followed best practices. According to the audit, one district's plan for an active shooter was to call 911.
The schools have come a long way. The active shooter plans have come a long way, and the school safety center has done an outstanding job training superintendents how to develop those.
But if some Texans remain skeptical about school safety plans, there's good reason. In 2019, Texas lawmakers required schools to strengthen emergency plans. But in an interview last year, TEA Commissioner Mike Morath admitted to the CBS News investigative team that the state often did not have the resources to ensure schools were in compliance.
We have some resources, and our partners at the Texas School Safety Center have some resources as well. But it has largely been structured as a self-policing system.
Scott says that will change.
Prior to last year, we didn't do intrusion detection audits. It was up to a school to kind of self-police themselves, but that's no longer the case.
With Scott in charge this past school year, the state conducted more than 7,200 unannounced intruder audits. And in cases where inspectors found an unlocked door, schools were required to take corrective action to ensure it doesn't happen again. Scott also plans to hire 20 highly trained security experts who will run in-depth risk assessments on school campuses. These assessments will start later this year with the goal of assessing every school once every 4 years.
We've professionalized school security in the state of Texas.
There's still a lot of fear around the entire subject.
Makara says she understands why the state has stepped up school safety efforts. But there's also a part of her, she says, that resents that any of it is necessary.
I firmly believe in the right to education, but that also includes the right to a safe education, right? And I think the environment we've created with this, obviously this political climate hasn't been the most supportive or empowering of students.
And I agree that schools exist to educate children. We just have to adapt that a little bit, where we're here to educate children and keep them safe. And when we get that educate children and keep them safe all in one sentence, we'll win.
Now, while ensuring schools are in compliance of safety guidelines is a big part of Scott's job, he says he also wants to be a resource to schools. And so, Ken, he told me one of the first things he did when he took the job last fall is he gave out his personal cell number to all 1,600 superintendents across the state and told them if they ever had a question when it came to school security, even if it was something as small as where to put a camera, to give him a call.
Well, yeah, he's becoming very accessible. I want to ask you, Brian, one of the new state requirements that districts have had a lot of questions about, and we've reported on this, is the requirement to have armed officers on every single campus. Did Scott say anything about that?
Yeah, so you're right. We have heard from a lot of districts who have told us that they are struggling to meet that requirement, in large part because they simply can't find enough police officers to hire. We've heard this from Dallas ISD. We've heard it from Frisco ISD. When we asked Scott about that, he told us that districts can file for a good cause exception, and he says that there won't be any punishment handed down to school districts who do not meet this requirement by the September 1st deadline.
Another part of that equation or question, however you want to phrase it, Brian, is the Guardian or the Marshal program, as sometimes it's called, where trained staff members can be armed on campus. This is, of course, in lieu of an officer. Is there an option for schools to do that?
Yeah, it is an option. Now, Dallas ISD and Frisco ISD have told us that they're not going to be using those programs, but it is an option for other school districts. And we asked Scott about it, and what he told us was training is a key. And there's a big difference in training between the Guardian and the Marshal program. The Guardian program requires 16 hours of training, and it has one intended purpose, and that is to stop an active shooter. The Marshal program, on the other hand, requires a lot more training, 80 hours of training, and its purpose is to train a staff member as if he or she was an armed security guard. Now, Ken, I can tell you that the Marshal program has grown in popularity. At the time of the Uvalde school shooting, there were 62 districts that were signed up for the program. That has now grown to 78 districts.
Something tells me, Brian, that maybe more districts are going to be considering that option as well, making that number grow. Brian, thank you so much for all of this information. And the CBS News Texas I-Team, by the way, as you know, we work for you. If you have a tip or a question for them, you can reach them by phone or by email. That number is right there on your screen, 817-586-7211. The email address is iteam@ktvt.com.